You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Friday. You are at the end of the week. We've got you all the way to the weekend. We're going to take you to go-home time. It is Friday. Hit it, man. Friday! Absolutely. Well, I'm glad of it too. I know y'all are. This week feels like it's been a month. It's been a month in a week. And that's partly because the Trump administration has done so much in 1 week.
Yeah, they did about a month's worth of work considered of the Biden administration, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
what he did in a week is more than what Biden did in a month.
Or 4 years.
Or 4 years.
Yeah. But, you know, what's crazy is on this show, we try to talk about local, state, and national. There's been so much national that's been the prime focus for the entire week for the most part. Anyway, a lot of stuff to talk about today. We got some great stuff laid on. That, by the way, is JP on the board. Buddy, you doing all right?
I'm doing good. That the cold toned down a hair today. Yeah, I appreciated that.
Are you now? I'm a self-professed spice weenie. I don't like spicy food, so you're a self-professed cold weenie, though, aren't you?
Oh yeah, and I was born in the winter too, so that makes much sense. But I hate it.
Well, I was a winter ranger, by the way. If you graduated ranger school in the winter, you sewed your first ranger tab on with white thread. That was a thing.
Oh really? That's pretty cool.
I had the frostbite to prove it. But so I'd like to think that I should never have to be cold again in my entire life because I've earned it.
You've earned it. Exactly.
All right, here we got a great show laid on for you today. Coming up at 3 o'clock, Congressman Robert Adderholt calling in. He's going to be talking about a bill that he's floating right now that would defund Planned Parenthood. And man, I'm for that. So we'll talk about Congressman Robert Adderholt, pro-life, and all those issues at 3 o'clock with him. Stand by for it. And then at 3:30, you know the deal. I'm sitting here with JP, who is like a sports savant. I mean, the guy knows stuff about sports I've never heard of before. He's got his own radio show on the UMP out of Huntsville on Saturday mornings called Off the Bench. So we're going to talk, as we always do, on 3:30 on Fridays with JP on sports. Stand by for that one. And then I still got a triple dipper full of stuff, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, life, which is also the name of my monologue, and I'll talk about it more in a minute. But today is the March for Life in D.C., and the very first president who ever spoke at a March for Life event was Donald Trump in his last campaign or his last term. And today he is speaking there again virtually, but then J.D. Vance is going in person. And this is a huge indication of where we stand on the issues that are pro-life. We'll talk about that as a full segment, the Triple Dipper. Number 1, life. Number 2, I'm just calling it the ice storm. Oh my gosh. Y'all, ICE is out there doing what they do, and they're doing it unfettered. You know, there have been hundreds and hundreds across the nation who have already been arrested and detained by ICE doing their ICE raids. This is a whole new day. Like I said yesterday, our border's back, and I'm glad of it. Ice storm is number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, man, you know the deal. Every once in a while, when I'm reviewing the show, when I'm preparing, when I'm resourcing, when I'm pulling together all the things so you don't have to get this show ready, I start thinking, look at the wokeness. How much woke? Is there that much woke? All the wokeness, and I realize what I've got is basically a vast cornucopia, a plethora, if you will, a charcuterie, a smorgasbord of wokeness, which means we're going to have a segment of Adventures in Woke World. That's number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, well, let me jump on into the Right Side Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys that the opening monologue, the Right Side Way, sponsored for you every single day by attorney Stan McDonald out of the partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee in Huntsville, and I'll tell you more about Stan McDonald here in just a minute. So yeah, today is the day of the March for Life in Washington, D.C. It's a day when people surge to our nation's capital to celebrate the fact that life begins at conception and that life is precious and should be defended at all costs. We now live in a post-Roe world where abortion is not the absolute law of the land anymore. The Supreme Court saw fit to reverse Roe and send the matter back to the individual states and affirm that there is no such thing as a constitutional right to end the life of a human being. Now, I, for one, am decidedly pro-life, always have been. Democrats, they can be a mixed bag. I mean, occasionally you'll find someone who identifies themselves as a pro-life Democrat, but they've become like political unicorns. We've always talked about them, but we've never really seen them, right? The Democrat Party tried to make abortion the center of their ill-fated, misguided attempts to keep control in the last election cycle, but look, it's an uphill climb to convince the majority of a whole nation that things like being able to afford food for your family or security for the southern border are somehow less important than being able to terminate a pregnancy on demand. I mean, if Democrats had their way, Planned Parenthood would open up drive-through abortion clinics staffed with minimum wage interns and put them on every street corner in America. But let me give you another thought. Let me suggest to you that while defeating the abortion-minded agenda and overturning Roe v. Wade was huge, and it was, that was just a battle. See, those of us that are pro-life need to make sure that we win the larger war, and that was one battle. We need to do that, though. We have to be pro-life after the womb as well. Being pro-life means that we support living, and that means that we are providing strong alternatives and opportunities to those who felt the need to even consider an abortion in the first place. So occasionally I get asked what my favorite moments in the state Senate were. I mean, to be sure, there were several spread out over an 8-year period. I can distinctly remember the night we passed the first ever measure of school choice in Alabama. I recall the very first caucus meeting for the new Republican majority in the Senate when, for the first time in Alabama history, we didn't have enough chairs in the room to seat all the new Republican senators, and some of the old guys got moved to tears about it. I remember passing legislation that kept a giant green energy wind farm from setting up on a scenic byway next to a pastoral farmland in my district. I remember a group of high school students that I assisted who made it their mission in life to name a highway in my district after the veterans of Afghanistan and Iraq because, in their words, it was the war of their generation. Look, there were economic development bills, there was getting a raise for deputies, there was balancing the budgets, there was cutting our own legislative pay to prove the point that it could be done, and a whole slew of unsung moments with constituents that made it all seem worthwhile. But, one day when I was speaking to a group of students, and one of them asked me point blank, what was my favorite thing, the most favorite of all that I had done when I was in the state Senate, I knew what it was. And it may surprise you. It was Senate Bill 280. The amended Section 22 of the Alabama Code during the 2012 regular session. So here's the story. Some very close friends of mine for many years, to my wife Charlene and I, are Chris and Karen May. Chris has been here on Rightside Radio with me several times. His son is Boomer, who sat in the seat where JP is now for quite a while. So Chris has been on Rightside Radio talking about the ministry that they have had to the Ukraine for a number of years. And their calling to the people of Ukraine dates back a number of years and began with the impact that a tour of a Ukrainian orphanage had on their hearts. So my friends, the May family, they were the first family I ever met who went through a foreign adoption. They saw children in an orphanage and they felt called really, that their next child was already born and was living in Ukraine. She was, and her name is Karina. So the May family went through all the bureaucratic machinations, the legal wrangling, the State Department approvals, the multiple trips overseas. They hired interpreters, foreign lawyers, and after what seemed like an eternity, they were able to bring Karina home to Alabama. They went through everything it takes to not only make her a part of the family and to ensure that her U.S. citizenship was established, everything. They also did everything that it takes to adopt the child, multiplied by a factor and expense of 10. But they discovered, though, that there was still more to do. So my friend Chris, he came to see me in my capacity as a lawyer in 2011 because it turned out that, who knew, Alabama was one of the few states that had laws on the books that required what was known as a readoption process. Yeah, I discovered that because of the May family, I was now made aware that Alabama law made the foreign adoption process more difficult because we required that every parent who adopted a foreign child had to do it twice, including all the legal costs of doing so. Why? Who knows? So I handled the issue as their attorney, and I was proud to stand with them in the probate court and celebrate Karina's second adoption. It was a blessing. But next came the most favorite thing I ever got to do in the Alabama Senate just a few months later. I drafted a bill that became Senate Bill 280. and we passed it into law with a unanimous bipartisan vote. Upon taking effect on January 1 of 2013, the new law did away with all the archaic need for a second adoption, and it streamlined the adoption process for countless adoptive parents of foreign children. I mean, to further crown the moment, too, my colleagues agreed that Section 1 of the Act should state, quote, "Be it enacted by the legislature of Alabama, this act shall be known and may be cited hereafter as Karina's Law." God, it was huge. It was a great day, too, when Governor Robert Bentley held a special bill signing in the old House chamber in the Alabama State Capitol building. And the May family, with Karina May present, looked on and had their pictures made with the governor while he signed a bill into law to codify a step forward to build stronger families in Alabama, and we named it after their daughter. It was a moment I'll never forget. So I tell that story for the simple but profound reason that Karina's Law is a clear indication that state legislatures can, when they want to, take actions that impact families that they serve in ways that go beyond things like budgets and schools and Medicaid and all the other governance. And right now, in the post-Roe world, adoption needs to be front and center again. You see, for 50 years, pro-life conservatives have been fighting against abortion, and they carried the fight forward despite the fact that the abortion industry is a big money special interest. And they fought despite the fact that the left demonized and doxed and demonstrated against anybody who dared to question whether life in the womb was really a life in the womb. And they fought, and they won, despite political paralysis that saw many politicians even become indifferent over time. So while not entirely a Republican matter, I will say this: the fact remains the Republican Party is the one that maintained the right to life in its party platform. And it was largely Republican-led efforts in the legislative processes that kept the political side of the fight alive, including right here in Alabama. The Alabama Republican supermajority is now like the proverbial dog that chased cars every day and then one day finally caught the bumper. The question is, okay, we won, so what now? Well, let me suggest that we dispel any of the liberal talking points that say that conservatives don't care about children and families by not taking action that furthers life after birth. We should work now to extend the pro-life movement to not only preserve life in the womb, but to enhance the quality of life for children outside the womb. And one of the chief means we can do that is just to take the extra steps to streamline the adoption processes in every state. I mean, let's make sure the laws on the books are amenable, agreeable, and workable for the average person. States can do things like reduce the cost for filing fees on the legal work to get an adoption done. Legislators, they ought to work toward allowing incentives like tax credits and adoption scholarships and early childhood health care credits and more. The State Bar Association can work with Alabama attorneys and get them to handle adoption cases and incentivize them to work pro bono or to at least allow a tax credit for having done so. Doctors who practice in the realm of pediatrics, they should be incentivized to do things like prenatal and early childhood wellness checks for families that choose to forego abortion and choose adoption. Look, the opportunities are endless, and in truth, you could do it really with one omnibus adoption bill if you wanted to. The Bible says throughout that we should bring justice to the fatherless and that God upholds the fatherless. Jesus said to allow the little children to come to him. We as a state should do the very things that I'm talking about with that very sentiment. And as more and more young mothers realize that abortion is not a solution, and in some states it's not even an option anymore, like Alabama, let's make sure that pro-life means pro-living, and that we have done all that we can as a state to promote life in the womb and after birth. I'm telling you, it is possible to further promote life in a post-Roe world, and we should. And my friends can tell you all about it. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, it was an amazing day. I actually talked to my friend Chris today, told him that I was going to be talking about this on the show today. Had to catch myself several times in the recounting of that story just now because I get choked up every time I talk about it. But it was the coolest thing in the world to do something that not only we got to name after someone that I love, but we did it in a way that blessed families all over the state. And I've heard from them multiple times. Very cool. Pro-life is more than just in the womb. It's outside the womb. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. And I told you a minute ago, by the way, the Rightside Way monologue brought to you every single day by attorney Stan McDonald. He's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. It's a great firm, and Stan's a great guy. I know him personally. I think the world of him. Look, Stan's been practicing law for 30 years in North Alabama. And not only will Stan advocate and fight for your legal needs and rights, but listen, I know this firsthand, and a lot of y'all do too, that when it comes to politics and culture, Stan has been an absolute warrior on the things that right-side ruffians care about for years. So attorney Stan McDonald, he's represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions. He can represent you in any local, state, or federal court. And I like to say, when Stan McDonald's on your side, you have no greater friend, and likewise, your adversary would have no greater foe. So I'm going to tell you how to reach him. I'll give you his phone number here. You about ready? Attorney Stan McDonald, law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man, a solid attorney, and you can call him today at this number, Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And now for the worthless disclaimer. No representation made. The quality legal source be performed with great quality source performed with all something humana. I almost got it.
You had it.
I got tongue tied at the very end by other lawyers. Okay. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Yeah, that was a very cool story, made cooler by the fact that that's Boomer's family that I'm talking about during my monologue. Just saw, by the way, that Emily Jones, our very own Emily Jones, who is the host of our podcast called The Controversial Mom, she just tweeted out a minute ago, J.D. Vance was speaking at the March for Life in D.C., and she said, what a great day for our country, and the newly elected VP takes a public stand for life. And here's his quote. He said this during his speech: "It is the task of our government to make it easier for young moms and dads to afford to have kids, to welcome them into the world, and to welcome them as the blessings we know they are." And it's a whole different day right now.
Yeah, I mean, contrast that to the DNC having vasectomy vans outside of the.
Oh my gosh, I'd forgotten about that.
So I'm glad that we have a government that wants more babies instead of the opposite.
Yeah. You ever thought about, too, the fact that the organization that calls themselves Planned Parenthood is about ending parenthood?
Yep.
Planned Parenthood.
And it's the exact opposite.
Yeah. How about it's planned non-parenthood?
Yeah. It's a nightmare.
Planning not to be parents. Planning not to have responsibility. Anyway, a lot more to talk about. You guys stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. I'm talking about from Huntsville over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back to Gadsden. I'm talking about big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, listen, we're wired up right now, and we're going and blowing. So we're going to jump right into the first dipper here momentarily, and talk about life. And then coming up top of the hour, Congressman Robert Adderholt calling in to discuss that same topic with us. And I got text boxes already going. So some of y'all are texting in on a Friday afternoon. We'll take it. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. And don't forget, by the way, we are streaming on a variety of platforms. Outside of the overly broad radio listening area, we are also streaming on any number of platforms. You can get us on YouTube. You can get us on two different places on X or Twitter. You can get us on still on Twitch and on Rumble. You can certainly get us through our website, rightsidemedia.org. Check it out. All our stuff is there. Speaking of all our stuff, I think the latest Liberty Minute podcast came out yesterday, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
I should have talked about it yesterday and forgot.
He went into depth on Hegseth and Bondi's confirmation hearings.
Outstanding.
So, yeah, it's very good episode. Y'all go check it out. It's on Rightside Media's Twitter page, on the website, and YouTube.
Yeah, if you're not familiar, so Rightside Media is the company. Rightside Radio is only one of our productions. We have multiple video and audio podcasts that are also a part of what we do, and then the written word also goes out every week to a bunch of newspapers. But anyway, Rightside Media, one of our podcasts is the Liberty Minute with former Navy SEAL Jared Hudson, who's an amazing guy, by the way, who does he has basically a business that combats human trafficking, and I don't mean like a little bit. I mean like former Navy SEAL, door kicking and still doing good stuff, and training law enforcement how to interdict and do sting operations. And it's very cool. We'll have him on the show again very soon and get an update on what he's been doing. Within the text messages, Bordeaux from Harvest texts in, says, "Hey Phil, Bordeaux from Harvest, I want to tell you it's been an amazing week." He said, "Ask the congressman if he talk about defunding NPR." Well, that's not on the plate for today, brother, but I wouldn't mind it. Then Casey from Huntsville checks in and says, "Hey, Phil, thanks for your service. Thank you for your service in the state Senate." Thank you, man. You're a man who makes a difference. Oh, man, thank you very much, Casey. I appreciate that very much. That's you know what? If I'm not, I don't want to be here. John from Huntsville says, "Phil, spectacular monologue. Also, did you hear that the Indiana man has been arrested for making death threats against Donald Trump on TikTok?" I had not heard that, but I am also not surprised. And I bet it happens every day.
I've seen a couple of people doing that, calling for Trump to be off on TikTok lately.
Well, first of all, how about just maybe a little maturity, maybe just a tad?
Well, these are kids on TikTok, so.
Yeah, and then my next thing is, you'd think if you were serious, you wouldn't put it on TikTok.
Yeah.
Just saying.
They're just looking for some pity.
Oh, by the way, the only reason why you're still on TikTok is because of Donald Trump. But,
yeah, exactly. Like, he extended it for you, you know?
So you have your addiction. You can still feed your addiction.
I mean, to be fair, I use TikTok too, so I can't really I can't really shame him.
Oh, the truth comes out. Bruce from Springville texts in. He says, Trump and Vance are basically renaming the Democrats to the Wile E. Coyote Party. Everything they do backfires on them. Yes. They tied themselves to that Acme rocket and went boom. It is awesome. All right, let me jump on in here. So life. Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things that have happened. Now, I will tell you this. The mainstream media and the liberal lamestream media, they are doing all they can right now to try and divide the sense of unity that people on the conservative right feel right now. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. Do know this, though. Aside from Robert Adderholt, who's calling in just a moment, the rest of your Alabama delegation is pretty solid. Well, I'll take it back. You got two Democrats now. So Terry Sewell and Shamari Figures, not so much. The rest of your delegation from Alabama and Tennessee, I'm telling you, we got pro-life going on, and I'm proud of it. Story here on 1819 News. Senator Tuberville, who I believe is going to be on the show Monday, we'll confirm that later. Senator Tuberville and Senator Britt Both are pushing pro-life agendas in the new Trump administration. So, story on 1819 says that they joined other lawmakers in a mass letter to Trump urging him to reverse all the Biden administration policies that were promoting and funding abortion at the federal level, which you'd be amazed how many there were. Think about it. The law already exists that says federal funds shall not be used to fund abortion, except they are on a regular basis, like the amount of money that goes from the U.S. government to Planned Parenthood, like the fact that under the Biden administration, the Department of Defense saw fit to say, yeah, any soldier who wants an abortion, doesn't matter where you live or anything, we'll just go ahead and give you special leave and you can go, you're funding abortion. You're making abortion tourists is what you're doing, giving them a chance to take abortion vacations, paid leave. I mean, this kind of crap goes on where, well, the money wasn't allocated for abortion. Oh, no, it just went to a pot where abortion also gets paid for. Okay. But yeah, Tuberville and Britt joined dozens of lawmakers in a letter to Trump on Thursday, urging him to reverse the Biden policies that promoted and funded abortion. Quote here from the letter that they signed on to says, Biden and Harris and their administration systematically weaponized the government against the unborn, their mothers, and pro-life Americans. Getting the country back to a life-affirming whole-of-government approach to supporting pregnant and parenting women and their children, born and unborn, is where we need to go. I cannot agree with that more. By the way, they also, signed on to a bill, and this is maddening. They signed on to a bill called the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. Imagine this. Some abortions are not, it's hard to say, but a late-term abortion oftentimes results in a child laying on the operating table and then being discarded. But it's alive. And there are times when an abortion results in an actual living baby. And the two senators were sponsoring, along with others, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, which literally says that if a child is born alive in the course of any abortion procedure, that they will be given life-saving treatment and treated as a human being should. Every Senate Democrat voted against it. Every single one. It passed the House, but the Republicans were not able to break the filibuster on the bill with every single Democrat opposing it. It's just gross.
Jamar Figures and Terry Sewell voted against it in the House too, by the way.
I'm sure they did. I feel certain. Yeah, that's two of our Alabama delegation. And I'll tell you what. Now that we're on the air in Chattanooga, I've got to get used to the U.S. delegation up there. I know we got pretty strong reps and like people like Tim Burchett. Of course, we have Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty in the Senate. But I got to get used to who's who up in Tennessee more so I can speak to it directly. But all the same, can you imagine? You have a chance to say, oh my goodness, a child is laying on the table. We should give them life-saving treatment. Let's make that the law. And for some reason, Democrats can't do that. Why?
They've gone too far down the rabbit hole.
This
goes for everything, like the liberal agenda in terms of transgenderism and abortion. They've gone way, way, way too far, and it's just ludicrous.
And I'll tell you what I guarantee you their thinking was on this. It was not just let's don't save the baby. It was if we do that, it'll make the abortion doctors' life harder, and then they won't want to do abortions, which means there'll be fewer abortion doctors available. That's what they're doing. So basically, they're just basically saying the child is not important. And they don't want to admit that a child's laying there. That's what's also...
Yeah, exactly.
Robert Adderholt, who's coming on here in a few minutes, he's introducing a bill that would bar Planned Parenthood from receiving any federal dollars. So 1819 News again says, Adderholt had said in an ex post that funds would be better spent on comprehensive life-affirming care. And so he's got the Protect Funding for Women's Health Care Act that prohibits tax dollars from being used to fund Planned Parenthood and its affiliates. So, yeah, the Southern delegations are doing their part in trying to get things moved forward. Now, here's an interesting article, and I pull this from Politico. Phil, did you go to Politico? I did. Politico doing all it can right now to create division because, it's driving them crazy that the right is in a honeymoon phase right now. And I know that something's going to go wrong eventually and something won't happen the way we wanted it to. And I know that at some point there will be a faction that says this should have been done differently than it was or whatever. But right now, things are pretty groovy on the right side of politics. And we've got the fact that Trump is speaking, like I said, to the anti-abortion march, the March for Life. Vance is there also. And Politico's position is Trump's not doing enough, and the anti-abortion crowd is getting angry. I'm looking at it right here. That's their take. The March for Life, which is going amazing, and which the Trump administration fully supports, and other things he's just done in executive orders this week, legislation being passed he says he'll sign. Politico's version of this is, well, the announcements that are happening are coming amid mounting frustration from the anti-abortion movement that not one of the avalanche of executive orders he signed pertained directly to abortion. That's their take. That's their take.
This is the part of a new Trump administration we're going to have to see again, unfortunately, is the mainstream media twisting every good thing as Trump sucks and everything's bad. And it's
all they've got.
And like I think that headline just shows that they had nothing. It's like the march is going so good, they had to make something up. This
is like their version of the Nazi salute that Elon Musk did.
Yeah.
Quote, they to an unnamed, by the way, this is one of my least favorite things about the media when they do this. The unnamed individual, one prominent anti-abortion activist, granted anonymity to avoid retaliation, because you got to know there's going to be like going to hunt them down, says, quote, people are willing to give Trump a lot of grace right now, but how far will that go? We're an important part of the MAGA coalition. We're loyal foot soldiers. The question is, how patient should we be? He's been in office for 2.5 days. 2.5 days. And this is Politico's take on it. I got news. He's already doing stuff. So we're going to take a break right now. When we get back from the break, I'll tell you that one of the first things he did this week was he set people free. You got pro-life protesters who were praying, who were in prison, who are now praising because they're free. We'll talk about that in a moment. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, making common sense like a superpower. What you got over there on YouTube? You had a comment, you said?
Yeah, we were just talking about the quote anonymous pro-life protester calling out Trump, and we got a 340 Iron Man is his name on YouTube. He commented and said, "quote loyal foot soldiers. That's a fake person, probably a Democrat agitator."
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree. That's somebody who said, "Hey, you need a comment? I'll give you one. Just pretend that I'm I got it."
No wonder, or no telling how many people are Democrats in disguise at this pro-life thing, trying to cause a stir.
It's like going to January 6th and finding the FBI in the crowd.
I didn't want to go there myself.
Did I go there?
But I agree. It's funny how many people are going like they're sheep or wolves in sheep clothing going to these things. Yeah. It's scary.
Yeah. Well, hey, speaking of scary, I tell you what is scary too. The idea that Trump hadn't done something for the pro-life movement in the last few days. Good Lord, he did something that was very significant. So. You may or may not be tracking, but there were a number of people who were what you would call just sort of like innocent protesters who have been jailed for the last few years for doing things like, something crazy like praying in front of an abortion clinic. Like, for instance, what's her name? I'm going to get her name real quick. Betty Beatty Williams. Betty Beatty Williams was sentenced to 41 months in prison. I think she's the one who's 76 years old. She's a 76-year-old grandmother. You got Lauren Handy, 57 months in prison. John Henshaw, 21 months. William Goodman, 27 months. Jonathan Darnell, 34 months in prison. You've got 75-year-old Chester Gallagher sentenced to 16 months, who was just about to report to prison. These are all people who did, what did they do? How scary was this? I mean, what? Oh, I know. Let's see. In Tennessee, a group of pro-life Christians gathered outside the Carafim Health Center in Mount Juliet and sang hymns, prayed, and urged women not to get an abortion. And they are either in jail, facing jail, pending trial. It's sick, man. And that's what the Biden administration, that's where your FBI, by the way, your DOJ has been for the last few years, is focusing on like things like this. Meanwhile, cartel members are streaming across the border, bringing fentanyl in that kills hundreds of thousands of people. But how dare we have people that pray in front of an abortion clinic? Well, it's under the thing called the FACE Act. The FACE Act. What is that? That's basically a bill. Let's see, it stands for, hang on a second. Oh my goodness. The FACE Act is something about blocking, you know what? I had it on my phone a minute ago and now I got to look it back up. Hang on 1 second. I'm pulling it back up. No, I'm not. Freedom of Access to Clinics Entrances Act. Passed during the Clinton administration. It's supposed to be designed to keep people from having violent protests and tearing up property. But it was never designed to stop people from praying and then put them in jail for daring to do so. And we got an audio clip. Listen, JP, I want to go with audio for Dipper 2, the one on Trump pardoning the pro-lifers, his words on it. This is him signing the executive order and the comments he made while he was doing so. Play it.
Next, we have a set of pardons for peaceful pro-life protesters who were prosecuted by the Biden administration for exercising their First Amendment rights.
Do you know how many?
I believe it's 23, sir.
23 people were prosecuted. They should not have been prosecuted. Many of them are elderly people. They should not have been prosecuted. This is a great honor to sign this.
There you go. Is that it?
They'll be very happy.
Yeah.
So they're all in prison now.
Some are out of custody.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But this president decided to do something about it. The last president decided to do something about it too. He decided to step back and pretend he didn't know what was going on when all of a sudden you've got grandmas who are praying being sent to prison and this deciding that was a good use of the federal government's time.
Well, you said that act was to help stop protests from taking place.
Yeah.
But yet we had Thank God he's not, but what almost was our vice president, Tim Walz, letting his own city burn to the ground and
Oh,
do
yeah.
nothing about it. So it's like praying, oh, that will incite violence. But burning down buildings, I like to let my window open and smell the tires burning.
That was,
because I love
Tim
that.
Walz's wife said that very thing.
Yep.
It was how she joined in the moment.
It was her touch. What was it? Her I can't remember the
Her
term.
existential touch or something like that.
Her touching stone moment or something. The hypocrisy is hilarious.
Well, it is. It's hilarious, but it's sick too. It's like it's not funny, haha. It's funny, gross. This is like Mad Hatter funny, right? This is the kind of thing that you look at and go, how did we get there? All I know is I'm glad we're unwinding it now. So as we go into the March for Life Day today, Trump has just set 23 people free who were literally in jail for standing at a place and praying, while BLM and Antifa and others can burn city blocks to the ground and nothing happens. In fact, if I recall correctly, former Vice President Kamala Harris helped raise bail money for them. Meanwhile, just know this, we've got a couple of other bills out there. The legislature's taking advantage of the opportunity to move forward. Daily Signal has a piece right now that says that Senator Pete Ricketts from Nebraska has got a bill that says that in the event of an abortion, that the baby will be treated with dignity and buried in accordance with the laws of the state, like any other deceased individual would be. Because they just recently, I say in the last few years actually, they found one abortionist's house where he had the remains of 2,200 aborted babies at his house. Y'all, this is the altar of Baal right here. Hey, coming up next, Congressman Robert Adderholt calling in on the same topic. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, we spent the last little while talking about the Dipper 1 for the show here. I just called it life. We're talking about life. Some of that we're talking about life in the womb. Some of that I'm talking about being very conservative and addressing issues that are outside the womb, and things like promoting adoption and ensuring that we are not just seen as the people that are saying no, that we're sometimes saying yes to things that make good sense and still honor the integrity and the scriptural aspects of life. All those things that make up the pro-life movement. That's beyond the womb too. Well, there's a number of things that are happening right now. The March for Life's going on in D.C. We've got things like Chip Roy is leading a cause right now in the House to fight the FACE Act, which is what's been used by the Biden administration to convict pro-lifers. Trump just pardoned a bunch of pro-lifers, which was great. You got things like Tuberville and Britt in the Senate working on a letter about pushing for a pro-life agenda. And then our own congressman from Alabama, one of them, the dean of our delegation, Congressman Robert Adderholt, who is the 4th Congressional District, he is sponsoring a bill right now that would basically make sure that no funds get to Planned Parenthood. And I thought, you know what? I was in his office the other day. That's where I watched the inaugural. I want to bring him on and talk about it. So without further ado, it's enough of me talking. Congressman Robert Adderholt, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, Phil, great. Good to be on with you.
Well, thank you for making time. I appreciate it. Listen, I've known you for a few years. I've always known you to be a pro-life congressman, but there's always something more that can be done. And you've got this bill right now, the Protect Funding for Women's Healthcare Act. Tell us what you got going on.
Yeah, we introduced the bill just this week on the 22nd on Wednesday. It is a companion to a Senate bill that Senator Joni Ernst is introducing in the Senate. And as you rightly said, it's called Protect Women's Healthcare Act. And it would basically, the bottom line, protects federal taxpayers from their tax dollars being used for funding Planned Parenthood and, of course, of all of its affiliates. And, of course, most people don't realize that, I say most people, I mean, I know a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't realize how much the Planned Parenthood focuses on abortions. And so that's something that needs to be dealt with, and this is something that would cut off their funding. Obviously, federal dollars shouldn't be going to pay for abortions, and obviously there's a lot of people that feel very, like myself, who don't want their taxpayer dollars to be, involved in that any form or fashion. Planned Parenthood Federation of America, has like over 50 affiliates that operates what they call health centers, but as you and I know, they're really disguised really as abortion clinics because at least one of their clinics has to perform abortions. Now, they say they perform other things, and they may do that for health care for women, but their main focus, in my opinion, is for abortions. And it's, quite honestly, it's staggering of how many abortions they perform. Numbers that I've seen is over 323,000 abortions each year that Planned Parenthood provide.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing.
It's no small thing.
No, it's no small thing at all. This is the kind of thing that, in my opinion, like future generations will judge us on, is how do we take a stand on things like this? And I look at this too, and I know what the argument's going to be. You mentioned it, Planned Parenthood, which really is just like it's antithetical that that's their name because they're like Planned Non-Parenthood. But they do things allegedly otherwise for women's health care, and they'll try to say those funds aren't federal dollars. We use them for other things, but we all know money's fungible, and that's exactly where it slips into.
And let me say that this legislation reallocates the federal funds from Planned Parenthood to federally qualified health centers that actually ensures that, you do have preventive care, dental services, mental health support that help a wider patient population. And so that's what the money would be. So there's no way you can criticize that you're trying to not take care of women's health. But I've never considered abortion, a woman's health. This is not what we're really trying to help in preventive care, dental services, mental health. Just the list goes on. There's a lot of things that women's health includes, and abortion is not one of them.
Yeah, and we've noticed, over the years, Democrats always give a name to something that sounds different than what it is. Like in this case, they call it reproductive health care when it's about non-reproductive health care. They talk about gender-affirming care, which is really non-confirming the gender of a child. So all these things, it's amazing how they'll try to slip their agenda past with a glossy name. But I think it's more like, the Cheshire Cat. We can still see the smile. We still know where he is. He's still there sneaking around and doing things. And this is the kind of thing we have to do. We have to continue to peel back the onion, and one of which is you guys control the power of the purse.
And another thing, too, Phil, let me just mention that Planned Parenthood also has a political advocacy arm.
Oh, yeah.
And they deliver millions of dollars to the Democrat Party. And also something that I think most Americans don't know is that they oppose sex education that focuses on abstinence. They will actually file lawsuits against school districts that have decided to implement abstinence-only programs, and they claim, Planned Parenthood will claim that they offer value-neutral sex education, but if you really look at what they're teaching, I think most of us would be very appalled at what they consider value neutral.
I agree. Listen, so your bill got dropped in this week, so it's not had a chance to do any committee action yet. It's just getting started. Is that correct?
No, it's literally been like 48 hours. So yeah, so it's brand new, and so what we're talking about today is just been introduced, and so we'll be starting that process.
Okay, all right. Well, that's great, and I know that like I said, this has been a passion for you for years, and that you're actually, if I'm not mistaken, you're the chairman of the House Values Action Team. Is that right?
Right. I chair the Value Action Team, and a lot of people may not be familiar with that, but it's one of the caucuses in the House. There is a Senate caucus. James Lankford from Oklahoma chairs it on the Senate side. I chair it on the House side. And basically what the Value Action Team is to make sure that we promote legislation in the House and, of course, in the Senate, on the Senate side, that promotes family values and, marriage, pro-life, religious freedom, and make sure that the value issues are not left behind. As you know, sometimes Washington can get caught up in tax policy. They can be caught up in deregulation, and all of those things are good. There's nothing. I wholeheartedly support those things, but sometimes they can drown out everything else. And we and the Value Action Team, and we have about 100 members of the House of the Republicans that are involved with the Value Action Team, and that we're saying we have got to make sure that the values are not overlooked, and that while we're doing things to lower taxes and deregulation and you get the government out of people's pocketbook, we need to also make sure that we're taking care of the values of this country, and we're going back to what our founding fathers realized was important, that it's not all about money.
Man, it's huge. I think those cultural issues, those social cultural issues, are sometimes bigger than the fiscal issues that we see all the time. So let me ask you this before we go. We got a couple minutes left here. What's the tone been like this week? I mean, when I was up there actually in your office the other day watching the inaugural, it was all fresh. I mean, we were just kind of waiting with bated breath to hear him say, "Congratulations, Mr. President," and then Trump gave a speech. But since then, and you've served under a number of presidents over the years, But since then, everything kind of got started and got started fast. What's it feel like in the Congress? Are y'all walking on lighter feet right now?
Yeah, no. Well, as I told somebody, about half of us are. Of course, there's about half of the Congress that's sort of drooping because Kamala Harris lost on the Democrat side. But yeah, the Republicans in Washington are just elated. It feels like a new day in Washington. There's hope. Literally, we feel like having the House, having the Senate, and having the White House. We having a trifecta that we can really do something. We have a lot to do, and so we've got to deliver, and we've got to make sure that we don't just talk. And so I'll be actually involved. We've got our Republican planning conference next week, where the Republicans will be meeting for about 3 days to go over how we can try to implement Trump's policies and try to make sure that we do what was promised not only by us but by the president. And so we'll be huddling together for 3 days, and we'll not be in session, so we can focus in on these priorities. And so, but yeah, it feels like a new day in Washington, and all the Republicans are very excited, and really, I think there's a lot of unity that I've not seen in a long, long time.
Well, that's the sense that it feels like from the outside looking in, I'll be honest. And I know that you guys have a lot of decisions to make come up the days to come, like the idea of a single reconciliation bill and how much of the agenda you can get done in one piece of omnibus legislation. But in the meantime, March for Life's in D.C. right now. And I guess, have you seen any constituents from the March for Life come through yet? Have you had a chance?
I absolutely have. I met with St. Bernard's School up in Coleman. The 9th to 12th graders rode a bus up to Washington all night to be here for the March for Life. So it's great seeing young people. And March for Life is made up of a lot of young people. A lot of schools come up. And I was at a breakfast this morning for March for Life breakfast this morning. I'm actually going to a March for Life dinner tonight. And so today's all about March for Life, and that's what the focus is. And so, just making sure that we don't forget that even though the Roe versus Wade was overturned, we still have a lot of work to do in the state legislatures, and to make sure that we can, because there's a lot of states that, say abortion's great. And so we've got a lot of work to do. So it's not just because Roe versus Wade was overturned doesn't mean that this issue is all fixed and it's all, perfect now, because there's still a lot of education needs to be done, and we need to make sure that we get that message out that babies are, at 13 weeks after conception, their hearts are beating, they're basically fully formed. I mean, they're actually, grow more, but fully formed at 13 weeks after conception, which is, I think most people are surprised when they learn that.
Yeah.
Or their hearts beating. So there's a lot to be, so thank goodness for, everyone that's comes in to Washington this one day a year and focuses on pro-life and making sure that for the rest of the year we're not forgetting that issue.
Well, Congressman, I appreciate the fact that you've always been on this issue, and thanks for making time for us today. We'll have you back on again sometime soon, all right?
Yeah, it sounds good, Phil, and thanks for all you do, and we look forward to being on with you again.
All right, thanks. Take care. That's Congressman Robert Aderholt, who is the dean of the Alabama delegation, meaning that he's the longest-serving congressman from the state, and he is from the 4th Congressional District, which, by the way, if you didn't know this, the 4th Congressional District of Alabama has had the highest per capita vote for Trump over the last 3 election cycles that he's been in of any congressional district in the entire nation. That ought to tell you something right there. All right, listen, we're taking a break right now. We'll come right back, catch up on some text messages. Y'all stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. Got to catch some text messages. You guys are texting. Text it, call it. Same number for both, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. John from Harvest, he says, the abortion issue reminds me of Ephesians 6:12. Quote, for we are not contending against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the world leaders of this present darkness, against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Says we definitely need to pray and put on the armor of God to defeat Moloch in our age. Yeah, Kyrie eleison, he says, John in Harvest.
100%. There's some dark force behind the abortion movement.
Oh,
like the obsession over it is not normal.
It is not normal at all, and it is it's an obsession, and it's almost cultish.
I mean, literally the key issue of Kamala Harris's campaign was abortion.
What else does she have? But you're right. I mean, what'd you lead on, Kamala? Well, I led on abortion. Well, okay. Next.
Yeah.
All right. An altar of Baal in her campaign headquarters. Yeah. Dan from Huntsville says, isn't it interesting that those that didn't vote for the protection bill claim that children are not discarded after a botched abortion? Fact checks galore say it never happens. But Minnesota, 3 babies in 2019 and 5 in 2021 died. What a difference not providing care makes for completely dependent beings. Aren't these cases still within the statute of limitations? Time to phone a friend and press charges. Wow, Dan, that's interesting, man. Yeah, you know what, though? The reality is it's a question under state law. And I bet in Minnesota, the home of Tim Waltz, probably got nothing helpful in state law on that. Harris from Athens says, Mr. Williams, strong, however accurate comparison to the altar of Baal. Nicely done. Thanks, Harris. Appreciate you. Linda from Florence says, where'd you go? Said, I worked as a courier for a local hospital, and I can't wait for 2 o'clock weekly to get to listen to you. Oh, man, thank you. And JP, it's so interesting or so refreshing to hear common sense on the radio. Thank you for your service and you both for being yourselves. Thank you, Miss Linda. We appreciate you more than you could possibly know.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know why we do it? For y'all. We could sit here and just talk into a can all day long. Ain't nobody out there. What difference does it make? So anyway, Linda, thank you. Nani from Beverly Hills, Florida says, how about a bill to stop funding any entity other than government? No NGOs, no Planned Parenthood, no colleges, no gain of function, etc. You know what? I can see that. Although I will say this, there are times when you want somebody besides government to do it, because here's the thing. I don't mind if Samaritan's Purse is given a grant to go and help people in North Carolina, because they'll do a better job than FEMA. And I don't mind if somebody's doing something meaningful. The thing that worries me is when these liberal agendas become special interests all by themselves. It's gross. Darlene Gadd from Gadsden says abortion stops a beating heart. Hey, Darlene, we love you. Thanks. Be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. I'm talking about from Huntsville over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa over to Gadsden. I'm talking about big old patches of Georgia, Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. All right, listen, Friday afternoon is 3:30. You know what that means? We got to spend some time with JP on the mic because, listen, the guy knows more about sports than any five of us put together. He's got his own show on Saturday mornings called Off the Bench on the Ump out of Huntsville. And he's good at what he does with this, but I also love the fact that he's not able just to like it. He's able to communicate it. So we do a thing on Fridays. We like to call it JP on Sports. JP on Sports. All right, man, you ready? So we do it in 2 sections. For those who don't know, the first section is called the 3 and out. The second section with a buzzer and everything is called the 2-minute warnings. 3 and out. First with a 3, go.
We got a big college basketball weekend coming up this weekend.
Yeah, you do.
SEC, big time, especially. The game of the week, college game day, will be in Auburn for number 1 Auburn versus number 6 Tennessee. I'm very excited to watch this one. Auburn has been able to track along while Janai Broome has been out with a really bad ankle sprain. The leader for Wooden Player of the Year for Auburn out, and they're still able to win and beat good teams. I mean, they just beat Georgia at Georgia in a close one. So they're tracking along, and it looks like, even without their best player, they're still the best team in the nation right now. So, but they'll be bringing in a really, really good Tennessee team that's kind of limping right now. They just lost to Vanderbilt, so they're kind of limping. They got a good bounce back against Mississippi State, but like I said, this is the game of the week for a reason. Auburn right now they just look too dang good. I don't know if anybody right now can beat them with how they're playing. They've yet to have a bad game all year. So we'll see if that continues. And it's in the jungle at Auburn, so the home court advantage will be in Auburn's favor. It looks like everything's going in Auburn's favor right now, like I said. So we'll see if the Volunteers can pull off an upset. But right now, I think Auburn they're just playing too good.
It's amazing to watch. By the way, one of the Auburn basketball coaches, Chad Pruitt, was one of the speakers at the governor's prayer breakfast in D.C. when I was up there the other day.
Yeah.
He and his wife are pretty dynamic Christians. They're pretty spectacular. All right, so 3 and out. First thing is the big game, Tennessee and Auburn.
Yep, and like I said, I predict Auburn to come away with this one. When they haven't had a bad game all year, it's hard to think otherwise, And I think I saw Bruce Pearl said that it looks like Janai Broome's going to be able to start practicing next week, and he'll be back. But like I said, it's just you can't pick against the Tigers right now with how they're playing.
And the rankings right now, the two teams are Auburn
1 right now, and Tennessee's at 6.
Okay.
They dipped a little bit after losing to Vanderbilt last weekend, but then they got a good win against Mississippi State, so they're back up. Good bounce back, but it's just hard to win in the jungle. So.
All right, 3 and out. There's one. What's next?
Well, Alabama's got a big game this weekend too. Alabama and Auburn will both be playing at 7:30 Saturday night. Alabama will be playing LSU at home. It's also fun. I like stuff like this. They're having a retro night, so they're actually wearing jerseys with the old logo. I'm actually wearing the old logo right now. This is my favorite Bama logo, by the way. The old script A with the elephant. They'll be wearing those retro jerseys, so that'll be pretty cool. But Alabama is, after that loss to Ole Miss last week at home, where they just played awful, their worst game all year. They bounced back. They beat number 8 Kentucky at Kentucky. They was their, I believe, 8th 100-point plus game of the year so far. And then they were able to beat Vanderbilt by 18, I believe, at home in Coleman. So they bounced back after the Ole Miss loss and looking even better than before the Ole Miss game. So we'll see if Alabama can continue to do that. Darion Reed for Alabama, the freshman who's been a key, has been out, but hopefully he'll be back soon. He has a leg injury, but just like how Auburn has been going along without Janai Broome, looks like Alabama has been going along just fine without Darion Reed as well. Some guys have filled in the spots, but Mark Sears is playing like an All-American, first-team All-American. He's averaging over 20 points a game. He kind of got off to a slow start, but he's playing like the stud that he is. And so it looks like, I feel like I say it every week, but both Alabama and Auburn, tracking like it's going to be a top 5 IBOB matchup in February. But yeah, I think Alabama right now with how they're playing, it's hard to beat them too, because I mean when you're putting up 100+ points a game like they are, it's you got to keep up. And,
it's a dynamic thing, isn't it?
It's hard. Yeah, I think they're averaging 92 points a game.
SEC
right now.
basketball is crazy right now.
It's fun. It's fun. I mean, we could have 10 teams in the or 10 SEC teams in the March Madness, which is just nuts. 10 of 16. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm also predicting Alabama to keep rolling like they have. So Alabama at 4, Auburn at 1. Keep your eyes up. See if we can have the first top 5 Bama Auburn basketball matchup ever. It'll be awesome.
All right, 3 and out. There's 2. What's 3?
Big NFL weekend as well. We got the conference championship games, NFC with the Eagles and Commanders, and then the AFC, the Bills and the Chiefs for like the 3rd time in 5 years between the Chiefs and the Bills. That's one everybody will have their eyes on, and rightfully so, because I think the winner of that one will win the Super Bowl, honestly, between the Chiefs and the Bills. The Chiefs only having 1 loss all year. Mahomes is obviously the best player in the NFL, so it's hard to beat a team with Mahomes. But even with their 15 wins and only 1 loss, people are acting like this is one of their not as good teams, kind of at the lower end of their Super Bowl teams within the last couple of years. The Bills just beat a really good Ravens team, so they got a ton of momentum behind them. I got the Bills in this one to beat the Chiefs. I think the Bills finally are able to break the curse of losing to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, and they may go on. And I think they're my Super Bowl champions right now. The Bills, they're playing very well. Josh Allen is
Where are they
awesome.
playing? Do you know where?
This game will be at the Chiefs.
At the Chiefs, okay.
In Kansas City. I would say, it's hard to play in the cold, but the Bills probably playing colder. So,
I was going to say, I think the Bills would have the upper crust,
Yeah.
of the edge there if they played up at home right now.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the Bills they're the best. I think they're the best NFL team right now. I would have said the Lions, but the Lions laid a flat egg in their game. I think the Bills are the teams to beat. The Bills are the team to beat right now. So I think they get that monkey out their back and beat Mahomes in the AFC Championship.
All right, man. Well, you blazed through the 3 and out. You still got time left, so give me some rounds. How was the MMA you had last weekend, the big card?
Oh, it was awesome. It was a great first card to start off the year. I know I talked about the drama of the guy having to go up and fill in for the main event because the main event fighter had to pull out with a back injury the day before the fight. And I went about it as I expected. He got submitted in round 1, but still, I mean, it was fun. We Yuri Prohaska in the third fight of the card had a epic knockout, so that was awesome to see. Marab Walashvili held off and retained his title against Umar Nurmagomedov. Those Russian names.
Did you just the way that just rolled off your tongue? That was pretty impressive. I'll be honest.
That's how you can tell how much you're a fan. I hear these guys' names all the time. Yeah, it was a good first card. No UFC this weekend, which it kind of sucks, but we're back into it next weekend. Israel Adesanya will be back fighting next weekend on a fight night card. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, it was pretty cool too. They almost had to move it from LA because of the fires. But they put in like a whole new production of like this circular, you seen those like circular Jumbotron screens?
Yeah.
They put in fog machines like during the intros. The UFC's been up in their production a bunch. So that was pretty cool for them to debut that as well. So yeah, it was a fun card to start the year for sure.
All right. You got a 3 and out plus, and you still got a minute and a half left. We can't go to break yet.
Oh, we can't. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about.
All right. So if you had your druthers right now this weekend, what are you sitting down to watch? Because I know I can't think of a single Friday that we've left the studio without you already having a plan for something sports related over the weekend. So if you had your druther, anything this weekend, what would it be?
Well, it's funny you say that because we're actually, me and my friends have had we won't be going in the lake, but we got a lake house trip planned for this weekend that we're all going to be hanging out and watching college basketball and NFL. So I'll definitely be watching, one of my friends there is a big time Auburn fan. So we'll both be watching the Bama and Auburn basketball games Saturday night for sure. And then, NFL during the day on Saturday too. So, but I'm sitting down. I want to watch that Auburn Tennessee game. That's a big time matchup there. And we'll see if Auburn can hold on to their number one spot. But game day will be there too. So I mean, this is the game of the week for college basketball. It's Tennessee Auburn, number 1 and 6. So that would be that's the one I'm looking forward to the most to watching, I would say.
All right, tell folks where they can find Off the Bench if you want to before we go to the break.
103.9 FM. The Ump is the channel out of Huntsville if you guys want to check in, but also you can on the Ump app you can live stream the show. But then also we got social media for Off the Bench. We got Off the Bench Twitter and Facebook. If you want to go follow us, it's just at Off the Bench, and you can check content that we put out there. And yeah, check us out there. We can also give you any updates on the show throughout the week. And so yeah, check there so you don't miss it.
All right, listen, and we'll talk about doing more sports-related stuff with you in the future. But right now, we're taking a break. We'll take this break. We'll come right back, and we do round 2 of JP on Sports. And we call this one the 2-minute warning. I actually keep a timer. Any topic he wants to in sports, 2 minutes at a whack, with a buzzer if he doesn't make it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, so we're going right back to round 2 of JP on Sports. So JP has the next round in the form of what we like to call the 2-minute warning. I've got a stopwatch. We got a buzzer. He's got 2 minutes per topic. Do what you can with it. Ready, first topic, go.
Well, the national championship was last weekend where Ohio State won 34-23 over Notre Dame. Was about what I expected. Notre Dame tried to make it interesting at the end, but did not come to pass. Ohio State, with the $20 million roster, got the national championship. So now they're just enabled to do more of that. But I wanted to talk about something that was pretty cool that we saw throughout the season, especially the postseason. I've seen a lot of people mention this, and I would say it's correct. I don't know if I've seen more players praising Jesus during the postseason.
Yeah.
I've seen so many. I mean, C.J. Stroud in the NFL too. Every post-game comment starts off with praising the Lord, and ESPN actually got note of it, and Scott Van Pelt and Reese Davis did a little segment on it. If you haven't seen it, you go check it out. It was pretty cool to see ESPN do it too, because I bet the higher-ups were just cringing to see that. Scott Van Pelt and Reese Davis, openly they talked about how Will Howard, Travion Henderson for Ohio State, Riley Leonard too in the post-game press conference after losing the national championship praised Jesus even after the loss. Marcus Freeman also talked about, the head coach of Notre Dame, talked about how he wants his players to know what it means to embrace Jesus. He brought back pregame mass for Notre Dame too. So it was a pretty cool storyline to see, that Jesus is making a comeback in terms of college players openly proclaiming their faith. And not only that, but ESPN noticing and talking about it was pretty dang cool. So I think that may have been my favorite part of the college football playoffs, was seeing that everywhere. And, when you have so many people doing it, ESPN can't people like ESPN can't silence you. They have to acknowledge it, and it was pretty cool with the players, professing their faith openly like that. So I think that was a really cool storyline. Even, like I said, even with Riley Leonard losing the national championship, still praising Jesus in the post-game press conference was pretty dang cool.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's very huge. I think it really is. 2 minutes. All right. So 2-minute warning, reset the clock. Love that first one. That was good. Take the next one. Go.
There was big news today in the NFL this morning. Pete Carroll, the old NFL head coach for the Seahawks, signed to be the new Raiders head coach today.
No.
For
the Raiders.
Yep, 3-year deal with a 4th-year team option. He will, whenever he makes this official, will be the oldest head coach in NFL history at 73 years old. So he's, but if you see him, he doesn't act like, he's always had energy and pep in his step. But one of the new owners for the Raiders is Tom Brady. So this seems like a Tom Brady move in the sense of he's going to go for somebody who's a winner. And Pete Carroll has won Super Bowls, been to many Super Bowls, won a national championship in college football, so he knows how to win. The question is he past his prime? Is he too old to, it's a 3-year contract. He'll be 76 by the time, and if they pick up his 4th year, he'll be 77. So the question is he young enough to do this? But the man knows how to coach. So, and the Raiders need a good coach. They're really struggling right now. But yeah, Pete Carroll back in the mix in the NFL. We'll see if he can turn the Raiders around and make them. They got the top 3 pick in the draft this year. They're probably going to take a quarterback. Will it be Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or such? So a new coach and a new quarterback with a new owner. It looks like it's on the up in Las Vegas for the Raiders. So we'll see if Pete Carroll turns out to be any good there at the Raiders.
That's crazy cool. Next thing you tell me, Lou Holtz is going to come back.
I know, right? Yeah. I think Pete Carroll was upset. It was similar to the Bill Belichick situation. I think he was upset he got pushed out by the Seahawks, kind of like the Patriots pushed out Bill Belichick. He thought he had still more in the tank. So it's good for him that Tom Brady took a chance on him to come back at his age. But we'll just see how it turns out. 73 is not young at all, and that's a hard job. So we'll see if his body can keep up with it. But he knows how to coach. So.
It is, but we got. Well, there's the buzzer. Okay, never mind. Reset the clock. Next 2-minute. Go.
I was talking earlier this week or last week on JP on Sports about how I was annoyed the Braves weren't doing anything in baseball. But they made a big-time move yesterday or 2 days ago. Jurickson Profar signed a deal with the Braves, 3 years, $42 million. He was an all-star starter last year for in the MLB playoffs in the All-Star game. 3 years, $42 million. So now we have an outfield in the Braves of Ronald Acuna Jr., Michael Harris II, and then Jurickson Profar. Some people are calling it the greatest outfield in baseball this upcoming year. So this was big. I mean, the Braves needed to make a splash. They were just being too quiet, and this is a big bat to add to the lineup. The Braves had a lethal lineup as it is, but you add this all-star starter to the already stacked outfield. This satisfies most Braves fans like myself. I was just waiting for them to make a move on something, and that Anthopoulos finally did. So we'll see how Profar can turn out, because I know Acuna won't be up for the first 6 weeks of the season. He tore his ACL last year, so that's another outfielder to have play in the outfield while Acuna's coming back. But yeah, it's just adding to the more stacked outfield and the more stacked lineup for the Braves. The Braves needed this, not only for the fans' sake, but just they needed another bat in the lineup, which is already a great lineup. But that just kind of puts the cherry on top. It's stacked. So we'll see if the Braves can make a comeback after that unfortunate last year with all the injuries and such. If everybody stays healthy, fingers crossed, this is going to be a really, really good Braves team. So Jurickson Profar, a big addition for the Braves this offseason.
All right. You got in way under the wire on that one, so you got time for another 2 minutes. If you got one, go.
I do, actually, because this was a interesting storyline. I was talking about Alabama-Auburn basketball earlier last segment. So Aiden Holloway played at Auburn last year, transferred to Alabama in the offseason, made a bunch of drama in the, transferring to your biggest rival. And he's played really well the last couple of weeks. He's had multiple 20-point games, and he looks like that he's coming into his own. He really struggled at Auburn, but in a post-game press conference after last game, he kind of took a shot at Bruce Pearl a little bit. He did it in a polite way, but not really either. He said something about how last year he really was in the slumps and everything was downhill, and that he said he appreciates having a coaching staff that puts confidence in him and lets him play how he wants to play. And a lot of people took that as taking a shot at Auburn and Bruce Pearl. So that just adds to the fuel and the drama for the already dramatic and highly emotional matchup of Alabama and Auburn. So not only will that matchup between two top 5 teams, but now you got a player who was on Auburn, transferred to Alabama, and is making comments like that while playing very well this year. I like it. I like the drama. It's fun. It makes things interesting. But if it backfires on him and he doesn't play well in that game, he's going to hear it too.
He's going to hear it. He's going to hear it no matter what.
Yeah.
He's going to hear it from the fans. The first time they play is going to be where? At Alabama or at Auburn?
It'll be at Alabama the first game.
Yeah, the first time.
So he's going to get booed out of the building when he goes to Auburn for sure. But yeah, I thought that it's adding some intrigue to the game. So there you go.
All right. Well, listen, how much time we got left? I don't think we have much time left, do we?
Here comes the music right here.
Oh, here comes the music. All right, man, that was great. You got in under the wire, too. You squeezed in about, 5 or 6 of those. All right, listen, that's JP on sports. He does a good job. You want to hear more like extended discussion on sports where he's not rushing to beat the buzzer? Catch him on Saturday mornings on the Ump out of Huntsville on Off the Bench, 9 to 11. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll come right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's news talk leader, Phil Williams, here live in the Right Side Studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a Friday afternoon. I'm going to Dipper number 2 on this one. And I got some text messages. I'll tell you what, let me clean up the text messages first. How about that? Glenda from Decatur said, Dear Phil, given the recent defeat of the Born Alive bill and the debate around the 14th Amendment, how is it that a baby born alive, a newly minted U.S. citizen, has no due process rights and can be sentenced to death by the doctor without... You ask a great question, Glenda. But then again, you're trying to apply common sense. That's where we're at right now. You're right. You're absolutely right. Brian from Huntsville says, Forces of Darkness, George Soros and those that gave him our Medal of Presidential Freedom. Well, yes. Adam from Athens checking in on the sports talk. He says it's about time Auburn falls, and who better to do it? Go Vols. I'm saying no.
We'll see.
I'm saying no.
It's gonna be really dang hard.
I'm saying War Eagle. Rhett from Danville, Alabama says, JP, you have to beat the refs too.
Yeah, I think he's talking about Bills and the Chiefs. Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. There's always that. All right. Listen, we're going to Dipper number 2. And I'm calling this the ice storm. Y'all, I am loving this. I can't tell you how much I'm loving this. So for the last, 3.5 to plus years, I have been talking about the southern border. We all have. It's been on this show how many times? I have seen more positive activity towards the illegal immigration issue in the last 3 days than I saw in the last 3 years. Absolutely, 100% unequivocally, the most activity in the last 3 days, far surpassing the last 3 years combined. It's happening on a daily basis right now. I suspect it's going to get more. As they get their feet under them, build their task forces, realign some federal, support elements. I just saw, I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I just saw that Libs of TikTok just posted that members of the 82nd Airborne, the 10th Mountain Division, and the Stryker Brigade Combat Team out of the 4th ID are all headed to the southern border. That's interesting. I don't know if it's true or not, but that kind of thing is happening daily. Well, ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE is busier than they've been. I mean, those guys, bless their hearts, they must have drank a lot of coffee and sat around the office for the last 3 or 4 years. And I'm sure not entirely, but dang, y'all. What they got going on right now is epic. Like, for instance, here's one for you. Federal agents of ICE and the FBI raided the office of an immigration law judge yesterday in Rhode Island. I mean, first of all, I said this to JP on the air yesterday. But the fact that they're staging these raids all over the place clearly indicates they knew exactly where they were and they weren't allowed to go get them. These are open case files. They didn't just find out like Trump got inaugurated and all of a sudden they found out where the bad guys were. No.
They had a list.
They had a list and they weren't allowed to do anything with the list. The very idea that you can execute a raid with warrants within 2 days of Trump being sworn in is a clear indicator they already had the files. They were just being told they couldn't do anything about them. Now they are. Federal agents raided an immigration lawyer's office in Providence, Rhode Island yesterday. I got one article on Town Hall, one on Fox News, both saying some of the same stuff. But the bottom line is this. This judge was apparently born in Medellin, Colombia. Came to the U.S. When he was young, just 9 years old on a tourist visa, remained in that country for like 15 years undocumented, finally obtained some type of lawful status, went to law school, became an immigration lawyer, and is now a municipal judge in Rhode Island. Just resigned today. Pray tell, why would that be? We don't know. All we know is he specializes in immigration law. They raided his office. They carted out all kinds of boxes. There is speculation right now that he was in some way aiding and abetting illegals with, any number of things. The FBI knew about him. Apparently, they weren't allowed to do anything about it until now. And all of a sudden, Joseph Molina Flynn is gone. Resigned his capacity as a municipal judge, and his office was raided. I'm for this. This is absolutely what they should have been doing. But right now, you still got people like Mayor Brandon Johnson, who is, and by the way, if you haven't seen the news today about liberal Mayor Randall Woodfin out of Birmingham, go enjoy yourself for a moment by reading some of his junk. I mean, he is having a complete meltdown over the idea that the president has ordered the end of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and makes comments like, in Birmingham, we're treating gun violence like the public health crisis that it is. It's not a public health crisis. It's called crime, and you're a horrible mayor, and you don't do anything to enforce the law. How about that?
Well, the comment that really got me riled up was we have the Birmingham mayor saying that Trump taking down DEI is the Alabamification of the government.
Oh, my gosh.
As if that is a bad, oh, I hate my state.
Yeah, thanks for being an ambassador to the world, their mayor.
Well, then leave,
Well, he's got trouble. He's going to have a real campaign, I think, on his hands, which is going to be a hoot, too, because his chief opposition, Wandalyn Gavan, she's a pip, man. Yeah. She's a real barn burner, but she'll say and do anything, but she's a screaming liberal too.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so let's go back to this though. ICE. Chicago residents, Fox News story, Dateline this morning. Chicago residents are angered by their liberal mayor's refusal to cooperate with ICE, saying that he is not aligning himself with his people. The mayor of Chicago may be one of the worst picks for elected office I've ever seen. I mean, remember when Barack Obama got elected and everybody looked at him and thought, well, he was a U.S. senator for 2 years. What did he do before that? He was a community activist. What did we get out of that? Well, we got an activist for our president. That's what we got. Who had just enough experience in being in D.C. to understand where the bathrooms are. That's about it. But right now in Chicago, you've got people speaking up on a regular basis. I mean, for instance, one Chicagoan went on to a radio show called the Black Excellence Hour. I mean, this is bipartisan, across racial divides. It's all of it, and said, we understand that we're in the middle of an invasion, and every single person that came across that border came with an invoice on their back for the Chicago taxpayer. They're sick of paying for it. They're sick of it. And right now, the mayor of Chicago is swearing that he is not going to be helping or cooperating or collaborating at all with anything to do with federal authorities doing deportation raids in Chicago. And yet they are paying out billions of dollars in Chicago right now. Tom Homan, though, who may be one of my new favorite people, Tom Homan decided they're going to start with Chicago. They're going to start doing ICE raids in Chicago. Just like, okay, fine. Guess what? We don't need your help. We'll come do it anyway. Good luck. Try and stop me. But in response to the sanctuary city stance, the Trump administration has also instructed federal prosecutors, according to this article, to investigate state and local officials who might obstruct their efforts. So that's going to be interesting, because if you got a mayor or a governor or a council member or a police chief or a sheriff saying, we're going to oppose those efforts, we're going to do everything we can to block you, guess what? That's a violation of the law, and you just open yourself up for potential, invite of a visit, if you know what I'm saying. Now, some of them are seeing the light, though. Dateline yesterday, Daily Caller. I don't know if you remember this or not. Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, remember that?
Yeah, him saying he was going to stand in the way.
I'll be willing to go to jail for it. Not no mo. Changed his mind. Things got real.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. Daily Caller reports as of yesterday, Sanctuary City Mayor Mayor Mike Johnston, who once suggested that he'd use his own police force to try and stop deportations, and be willing to go to jail over it, is now saying, I can cooperate with ICE. You got any laughter track over there? This just cracks me up. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the comments he made now follow the Department of Justice's establishment of a working group tasked with investigating sanctuary jurisdictions. So the DOJ is actually setting up a working group to investigate sanctuary jurisdictions. Oh my gosh! Listen, this is the Denver metro area has accepted over 42,000 migrants from Central and South America in the last 2 years. Since December of 22 through December of 24, 42,000 migrants flooded into Denver alone. Just Denver. That's not even including the surrounding communities like Aurora and others. If you remember, too, Aurora is where they had the Tren de Aragua gang taking over whole apartment complexes.
It's a shame, too, because to this day, Denver is one of my favorite cities I've been to. It's beautiful.
Oh, it is.
It's being overrun.
It absolutely is. Denver, Colorado Springs, the whole area. Some of my favorite places are in Colorado.
Yeah.
And then loved, like we went and saw a concert at Red Rocks Amphitheater. Whew, that place is incredible. Mm-hmm. It's like California. It's got so much going for it. It's got such crazy politics. But last year alone, Denver announced sweeping budget cuts in order to allocate enough money for migrant services. They cut $8.4 million from the police department and $2.5 million from the funding for the fire department just to pay for illegals. It's no wonder he's changed his mind. He's not going to be able to sustain his political career much longer if this keeps up.
And I think he realized Tom Homan wasn't playing around.
Tom Homan ain't playing at all.
There's a funny clip I posted on Rightside Twitter if y'all want to go check it out. Of they played the clip of the Haitian migrant who said, "I'm not going back to Haiti."
Oh my gosh.
They played it for him during an interview, and Tom Homan just goes, "Well, he's wrong. He is going back to Haiti."
We'll airdrop him if we have to.
Yeah.
Good luck with that guy. Yeah, that was the guy who was also yelling blank Trump and
Biden all the way.
Biden all the way.
Yeah.
I got news, dude. Biden is gone all the way.
Yeah.
He's gone all the way gone. How about that? All right, we're taking a break. I got more on the ice storm. When we get back, I'll tell you about, sex offenders among those who are being nabbed. And have you heard how many arrests they made in 2 days? Just 2 days. And then what is an ex-Venezuelan military official saying about the gangs in America? I'll tell you. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. So I'm in Dipper number 2, Ice Storm. Coming up after the next break, we'll kick off some adventures in woke world to take you to the weekend. But let me put a little bit of a capstone on some of this. First of all, one of the things that Trump did this week that I thought was brilliant, that I thought was the exactly, I've been calling for it, I've been saying, let's do this, please do it, was he named the drug cartels as terrorist organizations. That frees him up for any number of interventions that he can. I mean, it's no longer just a matter of law enforcement. It's no longer just a matter of border enforcement. It is now a question of whether, if he chooses to use military action, he can. If he chooses to put a Tomahawk cruise missile in the middle of a drug lab in the jungles of, Central America, sorry, you're a terrorist organization. They rank right up there with Al-Qaeda and the Houthis and Hezbollah and the rest of them. So that's huge. Now, I will say this. I got an article here from Fox that was very interesting. An ex-Venezuelan military official who now actually works for a U.S.-based think tank. His name is Jose Gustavo Arocha. He's a former high-ranking Venezuelan military official, now at the U.S.-based Center for a Free Secure Society. He said that was an extraordinary move. And it was the first good step he's seen in doing what he thinks is necessary to defeat Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan criminal group that's known to be in over a dozen U.S. cities right now, to include Tennessee, by the way. Last I checked, I think they had a Tren de Aragua presence, I believe, in Memphis. But all I'm saying is this was an extraordinary step. It was also a bold step. It was the kind of step that most leaders would be shying away from, and truthfully, some don't want to do because it's hard. But it ain't hard when you're a leader. Doing right ain't hard. It just means you take the bold steps. And this is an executive order, and it's designed to neutralize these unconventional cartel groups that are killing Americans at levels more than we ever saw from the Taliban or from Al-Qaeda. I mean, think about it. 9/11 was horrible. And we had, 3,400-ish Americans who died on 9/11? Last year, drug cartels, 100,000 or more deaths just on fentanyl alone. They're killing Americans at rates unheard of.
I mean, the best analogy I've seen is if Mexico was launching missiles over the border and killing 100,000 Americans, we would declare war right away.
Oh,
but now they're doing it in a subtle fashion, so it's we can't upset the cartels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cartels are embedded in Mexican government.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely embedded. Here's the last one, the ice storm. Here, I wanted to give you this. As the ice storm goes forward, just know this story here on Fox again. Fox was leading on most of these articles. ICE and Customs Enforcement arrested a number of child sex offenders as well as other gang members and criminals in more than 530 illegal immigrant arrests in the last 33 hours. 530 arrests, some of which include child sex offenders. And oh, by the way, the only way they could do that was by already knowing where they were, meaning they've had the list all along. They just weren't allowed to execute on it. Meaning they could have gotten a warrant, but they couldn't get the warrant because they weren't allowed to. And now they're being freed up. And y'all, this ice storm, I'm just telling you, this is in Chicago, this is in New York, this is in San Francisco, this is in St. Paul, Minnesota, this is in Buffalo, this is in, they're all over the place. ICE has been set free, taken off the leash. And I'm saying, good on you. So God bless the men and women of Customs and Border Patrol and ICE and the FBI and others who are suddenly going to have leadership and being given the right to do the jobs you signed up to do, because the American people need it and want you to do those jobs. And that, my friends, is in just a matter of days since Trump took office. Praise God. All right, listen, we're going to lighten the mood. We'll come back from the break, and I will get in here with some adventures in woke world. You know the deal. Every once in a while, I got to look around and say, man, and sometimes we poke fun at them. Sometimes we laugh. Sometimes we get mad. Sometimes we want to throw our radio across the room. But adventures in woke world's always got some stuff. Y'all, just because Trump got elected doesn't mean woke went away. It's Lord Jesus. It's still out there. We're about to have some Wokapalooza. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. I'm talking about y'all from Huntsville to Chattanooga, y'all from Tuscaloosa to Gadsden. I'm talking about big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. All right, listen, so let's lighten the mood. Maybe. Some of this stuff might not lighten the mood, but let's lighten the mood sort of for a minute. You know the deal. Every once in a while, when I'm resourcing the show first thing in the morning, I see a story and go, whew, wow, the wokeness. And then I find another and I go, wow, oh, look at how much woke. I mean, all the woke, we got woke. There's so much woke. And then I realize what I've got is like I'm building an entire buffet, a cornucopia, a veritable plethora, if you will, of wokeness. And I realize it is time for another Adventures in Woke World.
Adventures in Woke World.
All right. So first of all, I told you that some of these things make you laugh and some make you want to throw your radio. All right. So here's one that could make you want to throw your radio. So DEI. I've said on the show multiple times, DEI needs a DIE, right? We just need DEI gone. Like, can we get rid of some DEI? Well, Trump has ordered it. And the state of Alabama, oh, by the way, don't forget, has also ordered it. So state-funded institutions and schools in Alabama are prohibited from forcing DEI and CRT on their students and or employees. And then, oh, by the way, the federal government just went through the crackdown, and you've got offices like at the FBI and others that are closing left and right. Some folks just don't get it. Libs of TikTok, which, if you're familiar, Libs of TikTok is a national, they're international, really. They've got a huge following. They find the wokeness and they put it out there. Well, a friend of mine.
Oh, but let me just add, they're not actual libs. That's part of the twist there. They're not actual liberals. In case people do, we're not pulling from liberals on TikTok. We're pulling from an account called liberals on TikTok.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. The account is Libs of TikTok. I didn't know where you were going. Okay, I got you.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's not a lib. She's mocking libs.
Yes.
And it started off with lib videos from TikTok, and it just grew.
Yes.
Anyway, the bottom line is this. My friend Amy from Rainbow City texted me this morning with a story, and I realized, man, it's made national news. UAB, the vaunted University of Alabama Birmingham Medical Center, which is a great medical school, by the way. That's the Heersink School of Medicine, has just announced, and I've got a copy right here in my hands, of the memo sent out from Dr. Anupam Agarwal, who is the Senior Vice President for Medicine and the Dean at the Heersink School of Medicine. Oh, by the way, telling the staff, hey, don't say anything. But basically our DEI office, we're just going to change the name. It's going to do the same stuff. It's going to have the same people. It's going to have the same lady who was in charge of it before doing nothing but DEI stuff. Now she's going to be doing nothing but, don't call it DEI. It's like, well, it's about diversity, equity, inclusion, but we're calling it something different. Oh, what are we going to call it? How about this? Here, I'm quoting from the letter. Additionally, it says, to comply with federal and state law, the efforts of the Heersink School of Medicine's Office for Diversity and Inclusion will now align with Dr. Dilworth's new office, the Office of Access and Engagement. God almighty. And its purpose and initiatives to broadly serve all students, faculty, and staff. That's right here at home, man. That's in Red State, Alabama. Right here at home. Red State, Alabama.
And I hope Steve Marshall and Kay Ivey, this catches their attention.
Yeah, I hope so too. Christopher Rufo on the national level responded to that and said the Department of Education has terminated its DEI council, withdrawn its equity action plan, canceled $2.6 million in DEI contracts, placed all DEI staffers on leave effective immediately, and there's more to come. And yet UAB goes, here's a memo, just so you know, we just changed the name. Yeah, that's right here in Alabama. All right, let's. You think Hollywood's going to get it now that Trump has these liaisons to Hollywood? What, John Voight, Mel Gibson, and
Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone. Do you think they're going to like start seeing themselves the way we see them, the Hollywood folks?
Maybe. At least
Is it
so.
possible?
I think we're trending in that direction.
Have you ever heard of a movie called Emilia Perez?
Mm-mm.
Neither have I.
Mm.
It's sweeping the Academy Awards. It's wearing it out. Pray tell, what could it be about? Well, let's see. It's nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, Best Cinematography, Best Sound, Best Original Song, Best Film Editing, and Best International Feature. JP, what could it be about?
Transgender?
Yep. How'd you know?
I figured.
Just so you know, by the way, the nomination for Academy Award for Best Actress, wait for it, is a dude.
No.
They cannot read the room, man.
Nope.
Nobody cares about this movie. Nobody likes this movie except the people who want to give an award to a transgender. That's what
It's a self-licking ice cream
it's
cone
a
right
self-licking ice cream cone. Daily Wire has the story. Emilia Perez, the movie, the star's name is Carla Sofia Gascon, became the first trans-identifying person in history to be nominated for an Academy Award as the committee announced the nominees on Thursday morning. So yesterday it was announced Gascon, 52, is actually a dude who will be up for the Oscar for Best Actress. This makes great sense. I mean, so basically you've got Cynthia Erivo from Wicked, Mikey Madison from Honora, Demi Moore from Substance, and Fernanda Torres. Demi Moore is the only female name in there that I even recognize. And she's like 70. Anyway.
Maybe Mel Gibson and them can crack down on this somehow.
So, yeah. It's just, you look at this and go, okay, the narrative follows, what, is this the same movie? No. The narrative follows, okay, here it is. Here's the storyline. You ready? Wait for it. Brace yourself. Figure out your best sound effect for this, because you're going to have a sound effect. The narrative follows a Mexican drug cartel leader who fakes his own death in order to undergo gender transition surgery and live a new life in the movie Emilia Perez, which then insists on reuniting with his family while disguised as a distant female relative following the gender reassignment surgery. Because, well played, sir. Well played. All right. One of my favorite international politicians, yours too, Pierre Poilievre out of Canada. Pierre Poilievre has been known to just make the press feel awkward. Why? Because he doesn't put up with their crap. He doesn't yell at them. He just gives them a look like, why would you ask that? And then asks them a question in response to their inane questions. Pierre Poilievre just went on, by the way, it's very likely that he could be the next Prime Minister of Canada. He is the Conservative Party leader for Canada. He is also known for his exceptional skills in making liberal reporters just like eat it during a press conference. Got a great story about him on townhall.com, but I thought better than that, why don't we do this? Why don't we just play a soundbite? You got that soundbite? This is an audio clip. I'm calling up audio clip number 1 out of Dipper 3's section there. Pierre Poilievre is asked, well, Donald Trump, he declared there will only be 2 genders. And how do you feel about that? And would you go with that? And let's listen to his discussion here. Go ahead.
First day on the job, President Trump signed an executive order, the U.S. government only recognizing 2 genders, male, female. They're unchangeable. If elected as prime minister, is that something that you're going to kind of walk in line with, or what are your feelings on that executive order?
Well, I don't know. Do you have any other genders that you'd like to name?
Me personally?
Yes.
I'm just asking more so if you're in line with what he is saying. Do you agree with what he's saying? Is that something that you would be lockstep with if elected as prime minister?
Well, I'm not aware of any other genders than men and women. I mean, if you have any other that you want me to consider, you're welcome to tell me right now.
Well, there's personally, I am a man. As people who say cis man. There are people there who, they say they're gender neutral. Well, you are a man, yes. There are people there who say they're gender neutral. Yeah, they say they're gender neutral. They're a trans person. Is that something that you would recognize here, whereas in the States, at least with their U.S. government, the way they're seeing it, there's only two?
I'm only aware of two, but I mean, if you come up with another list, then you're welcome to do that. But I'm aware of two, and as far as I'm concerned, we should have a government that just minds its own damn business and leaves people alone.
First,
You know what? What do we have to do to get him elected? I mean,
I think it's coming.
I'd go knock on doors in Canada to be able to have his sound bites played on this show on a regular basis.
I mean, obviously, I don't live in Canada or have any connection to Canada, but just from afar, I feel like sort of the vibe shift like we felt from Trump in this past election. I feel the same thing in Canada. I think everybody's fed up and tired of the same old.
I think it's true. I think it started with the push from the Freedom Convoy a few years ago, and it's moved its way forward. And listen, I think this guy's becoming a folk hero too. By the way, the way he disarms the media like that, like you couldn't see the video. If you haven't seen it, go to townhall.com. Take a look at the article. The embed of the video clip is in the story, and he's got this drive. I mean, the guy can play poker.
He's very confident and lets them tie themselves in their own knot.
And then just sits back and you can see there's always this little glint in his eye. He's enjoying himself, and it works. All right, hey, one more story for the break. I got to tell you, and JP, you got a picture for this one?
I do.
This is all right. So this is big doings. Not really. It's fun though. I got a picture. JP, go ahead and put it up on the screen. So if you're watching the live stream right now on YouTube or on our website or on X or wherever else where Rightside Media also live streams that show off the radio, JP's putting a picture up right now. This is very controversial. This is very serious. This is a breach of decorum. Can they do this? I don't know if they can do this. There it is. Oh, it's awesome. You got a group of firefighters in Evanston, Illinois. Just dudes working in the firehouse, waiting on the next, the bell to sound so they can slide down the pole and get on the truck and go do the thing they do. And Trump got elected, and every one of them brought a Trump mask to work. And they got a picture of themselves all sitting around in their chairs with their Trump masks on. It's caused quite the stir. It's called Evanston, Illinois. Okay, this is Illinois. Just keep that in mind. This is the home of Chicago. This is the state where Governor Pritzker is, in office. This is where it's the politics are awful. You got it. It's to the point now that the fire chief Paul Polip of Evanston is writing a letter to the mayor apologizing for this incident, he calls it.
This graphic photo.
This awful thing. That's got these firemen sitting around. And by the way, the picture is hilarious. He says, we're taking immediate steps to ensure that all involved understand the seriousness of the matter and that corrective actions will be implemented. Correct what? What are they going to correct? Don't wear a Trump mask. Why? I think if you can burn a flag and call it freedom of speech, you can put on a friggin' Trump mask and call it freedom of speech.
Well, I think they can hit them with a wand, zap. You're no longer conservative. There you go. You can't make these guys change their opinions.
Well, I will say this: the fire chief, in response to the spokesperson for the city, said they understand that, quote, no employee while on compensated time shall intentionally use any city property or resources in connection with any campaign or political activity. Well, there you have it. A Trump mask and a picture on Instagram is now absolutely political.
I wonder if they had a Joe Biden mask if they would do anything.
No, friggin' no. Can they wear a Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago mask? That'd be great. I mean,
it'd be all over the news of look at these awesome firemen.
Of course, if they did that, they'd be accused of wearing blackface. So that'd be really bad. All right, that's it. Let's go ahead and take a break right now. We'll come right back. Last break of the day on a Friday afternoon. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Got a bunch of text messages, and a bunch of y'all are telling me the same thing, too. Yeah, I'm aware. I just saw recently, just a little while ago, actually, that 1819 News just put up an article that talks about the fact that the city of Huntsville has apparently rebranded its DEI department. Listen, I like Mayor Battle. I think he's done great things for the city, but Mayor, you got to get a hold of this. You got to get a hold of it now. You better get ahead of this message, because right now we're looking on the outside in saying that's a DEI office, and you know it is. So how about you not? That would be great.
Yeah, I always give him the benefit of the doubt, but I look at it and I'm like, is this not the same thing that we just saw UAB did?
Yeah.
It's like, how is this any different?
It's that kind of subterfuge does not go over real well. When people know why they sent their legislature to Montgomery to pass certain laws, and they see the same thing happening from D.C. that they asked for at the national level, and oh, by the way, we all want it that way, and you know what trouble it brings, and then the mayor's going to go, let's just call it a different name. Listen, get a hold of it, Mayor. Got to. Thomas from Athens says, I have to suspend disbelief where cartels make billions and some of that money doesn't make it into a legit lobbying organization to dissuade legislators, or maybe, Thomas, I don't know. I can't say for a fact, but I can tell you this, they were just named terrorist organizations, so there's that. Stephen from Athens says, City of Huntsville recently, yeah, there you go, City of Huntsville. They named their DEI office the Office of Multicultural Affairs. That is such a poor rebrand.
Well, I saw Battle's quote was something about how they've had this since 2013, and that it does a bunch of other yada.
It doesn't matter.
That all stuff.
It doesn't matter.
And that's sort of his reasoning behind it.
Well, it doesn't matter. We passed the law just a couple of years ago, right? Or maybe it was last year, actually. So that's what matters.
Yeah.
You can say we've had something else for the last 40 years, but as soon as it became illegal, you stop. John from Brownsboro says, did Mayor Randall Woodfin attend UAB? I sense a trend. I don't know. That's a good question. Where did he go to school? You checking that out?
Yeah.
I think he went to Miles College. But no, I know Wanda Gavan did.
He went to Morehouse.
He went to Morehouse. Okay. Wanda Gavan went to Miles College. He went to Morehouse. Okay. Casey from Huntsville checking in saying, City of Huntsville. Yep, there it is. City of Huntsville again. Renamed it. Man. What a great audience. Y'all keeping me straight. Brian S. from Huntsville says, liberals keep telling us, as in the case of the Oscars, that they believe that the best women were born male. Isn't that amazingly insulting to women? You'd think. Why aren't there female actors going, like, for instance, okay, Demi Moore is the only name I can remember in that whole group right there. Demi Moore, I'd be going, if I lose to a dude, when I finally got a nomination for an Academy Award, if I lose to a dude, it's going to be game on.
But then when they nominate a dude, he's pretty much guaranteed a win, because if you don't put him the winner, then you're transphobic. And so it's like he gets nominated, he pretty much wins, because they're all scared to not vote for him.
Mike from Huntsville says, and in Arizona, they just found asylum seekers with 10,000 rounds of .50 caliber. Oh, really? I had not heard that. If you have a link to that story, Mike, send it to me. Dorothy from Elkmont says, use the toilet flush sound effect, please. Do we have one?
We don't. We can invest in one.
I think we need to look into that.
Yeah.
I could see that being a good one. Dorothy, thank you. TL from Huntsville says, here's an image from HuntsvilleAlabama.gov, and there it is. City votes to rename the DEI. Oh, it just flat out says it. City votes to rename DEI to Multicultural Affairs. They didn't even pretend. We're going to rename it. I bet all the staff's there. I bet their SOPs are still on the shelf.
Yeah. If you got to call balls and strikes,
And then Marie from Madison says this, Phil, I work for a government agency in Huntsville, and we were given direction to report anyone who tried to hide their DEI activities using coded or vague language. We were told that if we were aware of a change in contracts or job descriptions trying to disguise the connection to DEI initiatives or activities, we were to report them. We were given an email and told there would be no adverse consequences for timely reporting the information. The memo also stated that failure to report the information within a specified time frame could result in adverse consequences. That's legit. Is that music playing? Am I done? Wow. And then Gray Falcon came in and said heterosexuals need to define the term cis as hate speech and beat them at their own game. Perfect. All right, listen, you guys have an amazing weekend. Stay warm. Don't forget there are more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you Monday.